11 o'clock here, 11:01. So thanks everyone for hopping on. Going to try to be respectful of everyone's time. You have. Oh, Sean muted me.
Okay, there you go.
Wanted to start off by just talking a little bit about our golf course opening. So great news! It looks like almost every county except for LA County is open and doing some sort of golf. I know San Diego is going to be coming online here pretty soon. So that's good news. Not sure if any of you guys know this. The PGA of America, along with the other allied associations, have come out with a presentation or basically guidelines called Back to Golf that are coinciding with the CDC guidelines. So we're officially in phase 1 here, I guess, in California, and that golf courses are starting to open. Obviously, limited with limited activities on site. Most of the ranges aren't open. It seems like it's kind of piecemeal as far as who's giving lessons and who's not giving lessons. So I just want to, I'll talk to you a little bit. I'll take you through a bullet points of the different phases. So phase 1, we're in here now. Gatherings of no more than 10 people, strict social distancing, walking the course, single cart riders, restricted golf course setup, clubhouses, golf shops, and other amenities closed. So again, these are the guidelines or that the PGA is putting forth. Phase 2. Gatherings of no more than 50 people, social distancing maintained, normal groups of golfers may play together, restricted golf course setup maintained, clubhouse operations are limited, and restrictions on leagues, events, and youth activities. So, and then phase 3 would be basically a return to normalcy. So, for those of you who are on the, we basically host some sort of webinar daily. I would highly recommend those Monday and Friday Cal Chats, given a lot of great information. I'll come back to that on the back end of the call. But for now, I'm going to turn over to Randy to introduce our guest.
All right, thanks, Anthony. For those of you that are on this call, can you please mute your mics there, and when you're ready to chime in, go ahead and unmute them. Again, welcome everybody again to our Wednesday coaches chats. I see we have a lot of new people that have joined in. Now that the golf courses are starting to open, even though they're very minimal ranges that are opening to get back to teaching. There are a few of us that are getting back into it, and as Anthony talked about the standard as far as getting back into the business, we are putting together also the standards and procedures, again being approved by the CDC. We're working with the staff, and Jamie Mulligan is helping putting this together with the input of the teaching committee. So that will be coming out. I've been able to get back to work a little bit anyways, not our group stuff yet, but just doing the individual lessons at Journey at Pechanga just opened up this past weekend. So I wanted to share with you folks some of the things that the new normal, if you will, as far as equipment that we're using there and starting to practice. We'll be starting to practice the group aspect of it with our juniors possibly next weekend. So we'll have a little bit more feedback and things that we run into as far as trying to practice that social distancing. So getting back to work, giving the individual lesson, obviously trying not to, or trying to stay away from your student without touching or having to put your hands on them to do what we've normally done for many years. I went back to kind of my old school of teaching with the golf clubs. I have, you can see some of my floaties back there, my noodles that I've used. I used to use that in the past until I started getting more kind of hands-on. But also getting back to using golf clubs to stay away. If we can stay at least, I know that this is about 20, they say 2 arm lengths. It's about that far right there to give you an idea. One of the things we need to train our kids and our juniors when we do into the groups is trying to keep them away and giving them kind of a guideline. So we've been doing the high 5 irons, where we go ahead and instead of high fiving, we're high 5 ironing with bumps and so on. This gives an idea about how far that they need to stay away from each other, to make it as a fun deal as well. Also in the teaching, instead of using my hands now, I use the two clubs almost like chopsticks, and have gotten back into maneuvering what I want them to do. And that's just been some new practicing that I've had to do. So I get out there and practice on some family members, your kids, on using clubs or so on to kind of stay away. We have Ryan Kennedy here that is also teaching right now. Their course has been opening. He's going to also give you folks some things that he's been doing as well. Wearing the face mask, sanitizers. One thing that I did do this weekend, as these hand sanitizers are not that cheap, and they're hard to get. So one of the things that I did is made my own, and this is kind of an example of what I just made. And I already have this stuff at my house. You can make your homemade sanitizer. Just take in the alcohol. I've had my aloe after sun gel, what they recommend is kind of 2/3, 1/3 of aloe, at least 2/3 or 60% of alcohol. Just mixing that up, and then to keep your hands from drying out. My girlfriend got all these essential oils in the bathroom. This is a lemongrass skin oil that you just put 3 to 5 drops in it for some good smell as well. Mix it up, and you've got your own hand sanitizer. So something for you folks to do, because this is going to be an important part as far as when we get the students in. We use a hand sanitizer after the lesson. We use it again as well, and a lot of it has to do with the perception of what it looks like from the outside when people are watching you giving lessons. An example would be the beaches were reopened again in Orange County, and it looks like they maybe even be closing again because of what it looked like. And that's our big message out to everybody here as we get back into it, is to see the gathering is the problem. So anyways, that's what I experienced, and to pass on to what we'll be doing. We'll be doing a little bit more group things this weekend, so I can pass some of those experiences on to everyone here. With that, Ryan, I'm going to pass it along to you, and can share with your experiences on teaching and what you had to change with this pandemic.
Absolutely. Thank you, Randy, and thank you, Anthony, and everybody who's on the call. It's definitely been very interesting here, because we've gone from having, a busy day used to be like 200 rounds a day, and now they're up to at least 300 a day, and they're calling the tee at 6 p.m. So there's a flood of people here. So just looking around at how people are acting, everybody's very, very different. I mean, I can see like 6 people at the moment, and there's only one face mask. Everybody else is just acting kind of as normal. And so I think as I've been teaching, trying to manage, each player and kind of figure out, how they're feeling about everything. And some of them, like, they'll run up and want to like shake hands, and I kind of have to go, all right, let's do an iron bump like Randy was talking about, or elbow at worst. But it's definitely different. And I've got some hand sanitizer. I've got hand wipes, and so that's just standard on the range the whole time. And I try to myself. I'm going over the hand sanitizer at least in between every lesson, usually during lessons as well, and just trying to keep myself safe as well. But it's really interesting to see how different people are taking this thing. And, some are very, very back away, hands off. And so I've started using items like the pool noodle, as well as golf clubs to try to direct people a little bit better. That way I can still help them move differently, but without getting too close. And then an item that's unique to my place, I've got cameras and a computer running in my little shed here. So one of my first purchases was to get a TV to hang on the outside of the shed, so that people don't have to come into the shed with me. They can stay out there on their own. They can still see what I'm talking about with the videos, because it still certainly helps for them to be able to see what I'm talking about. But I don't really want them standing right next to me, look in a 6-foot shed, be a little bit too close. So it's a lot of taking my normal process and just trying to adjust it as best I can. I've been using a face mask most of the time, but not all lessons. Certainly those who are really more concerned about it, I'm definitely putting the face mask on and making sure that I'm safe, they're safe.
Ryan, do you wear glasses? Do you wear sunglasses?
Yeah, I always have sunglasses on.
So do you have that problem when you put that face mask on, you get fogged up?
Yeah.
So anybody out there that has any, I looked at some of that stuff up, and if anybody has some tricks out there for
defogging.
Yeah, anti-fogging tricks, please chime in. That was one thing I saw, and it got really hot too. And we're coming into the summer, and the talking that I did definitely was super hot. So I may try more of a bandana handkerchief this next weekend and see if that helps. But one thing that Ryan said was that you might have to do with the video part of it. I also had to put out a monitor so you could stay away and still see it without having the iPad may be able to work, the bigger iPads, but if you use a phone, definitely I'd look at getting a monitor. Then you can keep the spacing.
They're really cheap.
Go ahead, sorry.
The TV that I got was $110. I mean, they're not that expensive anymore. And I got it I got it from Best Buy, and they had a customer drive-up drop-off where you just park and they would come up, you'd pop the trunk, and they put it in there, so didn't have to worry about going inside or even dealing with anyone at all, really.
What program do you use, Ryan?
I've got Swing Catalyst.
Yes.
Hey, Ryan, I got a question for you. How safe do you feel? I mean, give me a gauge of, are you a little bit concerned or nervous about giving lessons?
I'm a little bit concerned. I mean, obviously nobody wants to get the coronavirus, but it doesn't, I'm able to maintain enough space that I don't feel like it's really bad. And I think it is interesting here at this course where it seems that most people are not that concerned about it, which that can spark more fear in you, depending on how you look at it.
How have you changed your teaching style, since all of this stuff, or since you kind of got back? Were you more of a hands-on instructor, or are you able to give a lot of verbal cues?
I'm definitely more verbal cues, or if I need to like actually adjust something, I'm trying to use pool noodles, golf clubs. I've got a couple super speed sticks that I've used as well to try to move people into different positions. I think I've also increased like my demonstration of stuff. I used to do less of demonstrating and try to help them do it, but I've defaulted a little bit to more of those in the absence of hands-on stuff.
Have you seen a benefit or detract, using these new methods, any benefit to the students or anything that you're kind of learning by utilizing these new methods?
I haven't seen it benefit or detract. And I know that like all the people are, they know everything's a little bit different. So they're open to however I want to kind of change it up a little bit. They're not like, come on, get in here and show me. They're totally understanding that the times are different and we have to do a little bit different stuff.
I also had a comment to make and just kind of wanted to throw a question out there for the group. Ryan had mentioned people coming up and some might want to shake hands, some might want to see you with a face mask. For anyone out there who has started to give lessons or maybe will be starting soon, I feel like the communication prior to your student coming is probably going to be pretty key, right? As to what to expect, where to go, what you're going to be doing. I'll be wearing a face mask. I expect you to wear a face mask. Has anyone thought about that, or has anyone given out instructions on, to their students prior to the lesson on kind of what to expect now? Randy, you have anything to throw in there, or
no, that is a good point. I think, and that's a good idea actually to when you make the actual appointment and get that scheduled, is to have something, because right now it's just assumed. Everybody you just assume this stuff, but when they come up to me, there is that little weird hesitation of what do we do, do we elbow bump, do what have you. But I think that's a great idea as far as when the appointment is made. It's just remind them either on the phone or through the email, however you make those appointments, to have that message, if you will, that will be I myself will be wearing a face mask. And if those of you that are want that to happen, to be able to give a lesson, to instruct that, I'll be giving a lesson, but we have to wear face masks and stuff like that. For me, it's kind of like Ryan is like, I'm just reading off, the different students, and some are really particular about it. And I like the idea of putting some sort of message of what you expect from, because I wore gloves. I wore those surgical gloves. That was tough. Because it got really sweaty at the end. I may try to use those rain gloves. That I have a pair of rain gloves, and just have them, wash at the end of the evening. But these are things that I'm trying right now. But I do like the idea of putting a little message either on your email or verbally when we make that phone call to say, we're practicing social distancing, and if you want your students to wear masks, you can let them know I'll be wearing a mask and glove, and that'll be shown when they get there.
There was a few questions here. Ryan, I'm going to ask you. There's one from Dave Nisbet. I'll ask you that after. Sean and Scott had mentioned that each county is kind of going, has differences in regards to how they're opening up, and if they're allowing instruction or how that's all interpreted. So just to kind of comment on that, as I understand it, California is taking a federalist approach in that the governor is actually trying to stay hands off and leave it to the local municipalities to make that decision, which I know for most of our professionals can be a little bit frustrating, because you can have two cities have two different orders and professionals might be able to teach at one golf course 2 miles away and not at another, depending on how the cities or county lines fall. So I know that most of our instructors are trying to figure out ways around, if the driving ranges are open, if they're giving calls for that. I wanted to ask maybe Brian Schipple on this call, who works at Royal Tribuco, and their golf course just opened up. Brian, if the range isn't open soon, let's say within the next 2 or 3 weeks, do you feel like you're maybe going to start giving a little bit more playing lessons on course, putting lessons? What's your strategy there?
Well, right now they have somebody at the gate, the gatekeeper. If you don't have a tee time, you're not even allowed in the parking lot. And they started at 18-minute tee times, and I think they were going to 12 minutes this week. And the range just for warm up only. If you have a tee time. So I don't think that they're going to allow us to be on the golf course teaching, because they're limiting who can actually be on course, just for social distancing out there, making sure that they don't have too many people on a tee box or what have you. And then the golf cart situation, with only our course being so hard to walk, each player having their own golf cart, if they start condensing those tee times and get them closer together, we're not going to have carts to be able to take out into the golf course. So I don't think that management's going to allow us to take lessons.
I know certainly here the golf course is so busy that we wouldn't even have the opportunity to get out there. I mean, even though we're allowed to teach, we're really, really close to the Ventura and LA County lines, and so everybody from LA is here. Like, you see hundreds of bags from all the LA clubs that are here. And so our golf course is just slammed. There's no way that we would even have space to go out there and do an on-course lesson. So I think it's something you have to consider depending on where you are.
Ryan, there was a question that came through. Are you still charging the same rates for your lessons?
Yep, same rates. And I have a different clientele, so I don't see too many new people, because the only thing I really offer is a monthly subscription. So I maybe get like 2-3 new people a month. Otherwise, it's the same people month in, month out.
Great.
So one of the things along those lines, Anthony, as far as the same rates for those of you out there, when we get to this group situation, we're definitely cutting the groups down, which means you're not going to make as much money. But at that same point, we're actually going to raise our prices a little bit to try to offset that. It won't be the full way to get the amount of money that you normally get out of your group lessons. But the whole thing is like, now the groups are smaller, so they're getting more attention, and we haven't had much as far as people complaining about that. They certainly understand, so they just want to get their kids back out there. So that's one thing to consider. If you do have big groups, we're making them smaller, but we're also going to charge a little bit more.
Randy, you can absolutely make that a selling point as well, where
that's
you
how
can tell people, you're going to get better instruction and safer.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Randy, would you mind, I know you spoke about it last week, just kind of for those who might be on the call this week, just kind of giving us a rundown as to what you guys did last year and how you guys are altering your schedule this year, what it's going to look like as far as groups.
Right. So as far as groups goes, obviously the summertime is our big camp, our big camps. We always did charge more. We didn't have those big camps where you get 20 plus kids coming on in for that 1 week. We hold our camps weekly through the whole summer. So that's always been our deal. And so we've always had about anywhere from 6 to 12 participants in our camps weekly. So all we did, but we had it kind of a full day, meaning it was almost a 6-hour camp, 3 hours in 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon. Now we're going to break that up into two separate classes, so they're smaller and have a 3-hour camp in the morning, 3-hour camp in the afternoon. So those are the adjustments we've had to make. So initially, we're not really losing too much money on that because we're still charging the same thing. They're still getting the same deal. We've always had kind of a 4-to-1 ratio in our teacher to student. From that sense, we're going to be okay. But those of you that do the, those 2 or 3 camps during the summer that you have 20 to 30 in them, those are the ones that are trying to make those adjustments for. So it's basically making them small and just having more of them throughout the week or throughout the summer.
I know Josh Alpert's on this call, and for those of you, Josh. So Josh does a pretty high volume camp and group lesson. Josh, do you want to kind of talk about what your strategy is moving forward? I know we had a really nice conversation with Blake and Heidi after our call. You kind of want to take us through kind of what you're thinking in regards to your group programming?
Yeah, so we have larger challenges we're trying to sort through as well. I don't have any idea here in LA County. We're not sure when our course is going to open, and we have a larger issue surrounding a Topgolf taking over our facility. So there's a whole other set of things that are going on. But in a general sense, our camps were 8 weeks every summer, and we have 40 to 50 kids every week with 8 instructors. So it's a pretty large program. So what we're preparing for in the unknown that we move into is half-day sessions, so that we would have a morning and an afternoon breaking it up, and then I'm preparing for a maximum of 8 kids per camp, knowing that 10 is sort of the bar for how many people could be there at a time. So 2 instructors, 8 kids maxes us at the 10. So I'm just preparing for a morning and an afternoon session, 8 kids in the morning, 8 in the afternoon, and just looking at doing it that way until we get greater clarity on what we can and can't do, because to prepare for more than that just seems like it's not going to happen.
And just generally speaking, in regards to loss of revenue, what are you guys anticipating there? Is it across the board, just generally?
I mean, in our situation, certainly, it's going to be crushing because, our programs have so many kids, and obviously the volume of kids, even though we charge a lower rate as a result, it's just much better for the golf course and for the instructors and for everybody. So to minimize it down, it's going to hurt in that, instead of 8 guys making money, it's going to narrow down to 1 or 2. We'll have to charge a greater rate to recover some of that. So it's really going to be difficult. We're going to have to migrate everything back into individual and small group things, 1, 2, 3, 4 kids at a time. And from that perspective, beyond the individual lessons, I'm looking at 4 kid programs that we're going to probably be running myself, and I'm just going to set everything up spatially to be able to accommodate it. So, areas on the putting green and the chipping area where I have very specific stations set up so that I could explain the drill, not have to be involved, like Ryan was saying, and run small group classes in that way, and just let the games and challenges lead the instruction so that I can be a little bit more hands off.
Gotcha. And do you anticipate, maybe shorter camp out or sessions or hours, but actually you working more hours in the day trying to offer, camps essentially from morning to late afternoon or early evening?
Yeah, so that's so I'm actually in the process of polling, and I've hesitated on the launch of the poll, just again in my circumstance. I'm not quite sure what the landscape is, so I have to be a little bit careful about being specific in information to our database. But I do MailChimps out to our folks, and I'm actually in the process right now of doing a questionnaire, sort of, hey parents, in light of you know, in light of their reality, this is the other part of it that I think we have to consider is, you know, all of those kids have parents. All of those parents are in a crappy situation. They haven't been working, or, you know, like, what are they going to do with their kids? So, you know, we've offered historically 5-hour camps with aftercare so that we could literally take care of a kid all day if they needed to. You know, I'm polling our parents just to say, hey, if we only kept them for 2 or 3 hours at a time, why that might be better for me. It might be impossible for the parent to do because they're looking for care for their kids so that they can work. So I'm trying to weigh just having less kids all day in some capacity so that I could legitimately take care of the child and the family dynamic, or whether I've just got to say, hey, we're just going to do 2-3 hour blocks, and I'm sorry, it is what it is. I'm really trying to get some response from how we can support our customers' needs over the summer as best we can and still make revenue. It's an ongoing. I'm researching it. I don't have answers to it.
Yeah, and you know, Randy had alluded to the pricing issue there too. I mean, you know, do you anticipate, you know, do you anticipate there's going to be, you're going to charge more? You're going to keep the same prices for your camps, or maybe reduce them as parents might be out of work, or might be, you know, a little bit more difficult to find the money in the budget to do a summer camp?
Yeah, I mean, we will absolutely, if you have a camp that had, you know, in our case, 40 kids or 40 plus kids in it, if we're going to knock that down to 6 or 8 kids per session, then the price automatically is going to go up. And that's logical. People understand that the value of the program is greater to have more individualized attention, et cetera. So that will be a natural process for us, is to increase the price. I'm planning on justifying that price increase very, very clearly, that you're getting more attention, because obviously, you know, in the larger world, price is a sensitive thing. I'm gonna rule a lot of our regular customers out from being able to afford it if we go too far. So, as much as I hate to say it, I'm probably going to take a hit financially in order to not do something that's just so far outside of our norm that it can't be done.
Great, thanks for the insight there, Josh.
Hey, Anthony. Also, yesterday, I know for those of us that are on this call that are still don't foresee even working for a little while because of your facilities, you know, as far as the unemployment, filing for the unemployment now, it opened up yesterday for independent contractors, self employers. Anthony, do you have any particulars about that? I know my coaches anyways went ahead and applied for that, so we'll see how that kind of goes, but that's changed from the normal deal. So if you haven't done that yet, I get on to the EDD and apply.
Yeah, so I posted a CalChat, the actual YouTube link, in the chat box here. So Randy, they go over just that, right? So they go over situations where, you know, you might be an instructor who teaches or works in the shop, and then, you know, a percentage of your revenue comes there, or your salary comes there, and then obviously supplemented by lesson revenue. So they, you know, they touch specifically on what happens if you go, you're still required to work in the shop, but you can't give lessons. Are you still able to apply for relief? And so, you know, the employment attorney said, yes, absolutely. You should definitely get on and file for what you feel would be a loss there. Again, I can't stress enough, you know, these CalChats on Mondays and Fridays are so helpful in giving an idea. And it's not just about golf course operations. It's about, you know, helping, you know, for those who should apply, who can apply for EDD, you know, different scenarios and situations. We have a host of people on, even talking about the PGA Disaster Relief Fund, how to apply for that, and, you know, what the status is of that. So a lot of great information there on that, in that aspect. So would definitely encourage everyone to hop on those Monday and Friday calls. We did have a question come in for Ryan in regards to online lessons. Ryan, are you doing any online lessons for people who might not feel comfortable or might be, you know, geographically not able to come see you?
Absolutely. I've had more than a few people who just wanted to do their lessons from their house, and so we either use FaceTime or Zoom, and run them that way. And so that is definitely challenging because then you really can't do a lot of things. I was lucky I had a couple of guys that had their own TrackMans at home, so that made it pretty easy. But the rest of them have been, challenging. I did have one guy from Bakersfield who he did have a driving range, and so we were actually able to kind of use some of the features on the driving range and use more external cues to create some of the changes we wanted. Meaning, like, he usually gets really steep and too far out to the right, and so we had him go over to the far right side of the range, and there's some trees over there, so we had him trying to hit fades up over the tree to try to, get the same motions out of the ball flight and using those external cues, since I couldn't be there to, help him do stuff, and that worked out pretty well.
And what's the difference in rate for a virtual lesson as opposed to in-person lesson?
I've heard a good rate is to do half. In my case, all of mine have been people who are already working with me on the monthly subscription, so we haven't done any rate changes for them, thankfully for me.
And how do people subscribe to to the monthly subscription? Is it a Patreon thing, or is it something where they sign up via your one website?
When they come and start their full game assessment, I get their credit card info, and I run it through a program that just hits every month, and then we get them scheduled for either their hour a week here at the range, or in these few cases they're just doing it from home at their usual time.
And what is a monthly subscription get you? Is it basically unlimited, or X amount of lessons per month?
When I first started it, I was doing more of an unlimited style because I didn't have as many people. And as I've grown busier and busier, and now it's down to an hour a week. But there's certainly times where people just need an extra hour. And, if they're going to be on this monthly subscription to me, I don't mind giving them an hour or even two if they need it. If somebody gets the shanks, I'm going to make sure that they're, getting straightened out. And so I'll give them that extra time if they need it.
So do you feel like people utilize your service?
Yeah, but isn't the shanks contagious?
Do you feel like people...
Is there a mask for that?
Yeah. Do you feel like people utilize your services a little bit more with a monthly subscription as opposed to just like a one-off lesson? Do you feel like people are... It's actually really good to engage a little bit more, so people kind of get maybe more of a value.
Absolutely. I think they end up practicing a lot more because they're trying to get their practice in before the next time they see me. But I also tend to get people who just want to work a lot harder at the game. I really kind of eliminated all the people who want, that quick fix right before their work scramble the next day, which I always kind of viewed as, not the greatest model for business, because it's really hard to get anything done in just a half hour. And so I kind of decided that was bad for my business, because people would walk away not really sure if they actually got better, and I wouldn't feel so great about it either. So I just decided to eliminate all of those folks and just focus on the ones who really wanted to work really hard.
So you go
really good.
So for the majority of your students, you're going straight monthly subscription, not really one-on-one, one-off lesson. Is that right?
I think I only have two people that are they're still on a monthly subscription, but they're paying it's an hour per month. And I've only got two of those. Everybody else is on the full hour a week monthly subscription.
And this is really, so give me an idea of like your engagement for people. Like, let's say you haven't seen Mrs. Smith for 2 months. Are you like reaching out to her saying, hey, yeah, you're on a subscription, where are you? We missed you, sort of deal?
It rarely happens. But when it does, I'll be posting stuff. I use a Coach Now with all my players. For those of you who don't use it, it's an app where each player has their own training space, and so if I'm not hearing from somebody at all, then I'll go in there and post stuff, as well as I add them all to an academy team, and in that one I'm posting stuff every week, so at least I'm still feeding them content, and it's leaves it a little bit up to them to, if you want to keep paying, okay, but I'm here. Like, here's the stuff I'm giving you. You know my number. Come on, come back when you can.
Yeah, really interesting. All right. Well,
Hey, Anthony, there was a question I saw that Bob Madsen is on the call here asking, have you had to give a refund anybody back of your group since the pandemic?
There were certainly a couple people that just wanted to go on hold, and that's of course fine. I'll refund it instantly, because I know that the second they're feeling comfortable, they're going to come right back.
Sure.
And if I tried to, withhold any of it, then they would be gone forever. So that was a no-brainer in my eyes. Most of them just kind of kept on going.
Yeah. While I had Josh Alpert on the line here, if you folks didn't join us for I think it was the fourth segment of our our virtual youth summit. We're able to do the youth summit and break it down, since we had to cancel it last month. And again, it was just another great session with one of our sponsors, one of Josh's students and friends, Brendan Cohen with Liquid IV, and it was really good. So again, plan yourselves accordingly to get on this these webinars that I learned a lot, and that was kind of an inspirational session yesterday. So the next one is next Tuesday. I think there's a couple of more left. And so, Josh, can you tell us what we have to look forward to then?
Yes, I will. Before I do, and this is what I learned about order of operations in life, I would like to wish Bob Madsen a happy birthday today. That is obviously more important than anything else that is going on. So let's just make sure we acknowledge the obvious. Bob, happy birthday. Love you, buddy.
Should we also
Happy birthday, Bob.
I don't know if we can sing it. It'll blip in and out, but that'd be pretty fun. Jordan Thomas does have a ukulele that he's been learning, so maybe Jordan could pop on with that. I'm learning a lot about you guys, more than I would. So anyway, that's a whole other conversation. Next week, we've just decided to do 2 more. Obviously, we're going to be getting back to work at some point here, and to go too far with a small audience is not necessary. But our last 2 that we have scheduled, Ted Gleason is going to be on next week. Obviously, a lot of information about college golf, but we're going to migrate the discussion to some other areas. Obviously, dealing with COVID, the reality, and getting back to work, and how we can really affect our students in positive ways in a new reality. So it'll be related to college and Ted's sweet spot, but we're going to merge it into some more relevant discussion. The final one that we do have planned, and I'll come out with more information about that, has actually switched, and it's in response to a lot of the things that we're talking about. I'm going to have 2 speakers on that are specialists in the social media and creative marketing area, and they're going to discuss the various platforms: email, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, texting, calling, a lot of that different stuff, and really try to effectively discuss how, specific to golf where it's relevant, but really just as we move forward and get back to work, how can we as an industry, how can a general manager, how can a director of golf, how could a golf instructor who's independent like myself in a lot of ways, how can we use technology and these platforms to support our business models and connecting with our students in ways that are beneficial for everyone. So we'll really look into some of that and get professionals in those industries to help us, lead us toward being better in those areas that are going to be so critical moving forward, like it or not. So hopefully that will be very educational and relevant, and we're going to pin our ears on that one for the final one.
Thanks, Josh. And again, great job on those and for your time and efforts. And with that, I do want to extend a big mahalo to, all the people that are on the teaching committee. Ryan Kennedy is one of our new members. Thank you for already what you've done. If you go online talking about the social media with Facebook, we have a coaches huddle that you should want to follow. We have I know Alan Ochi that has been doing a lot of little tips from his house. I've been enjoying that with many others that are on this call. So again, thank you all to the teaching committee for the work that you've done, especially in these times. With that, I just want to mention Tim Mitchell, who's on the committee, that did a cool little thing while he's had the time, and it's I want to share with you folks. And then if you want to hear, I will email you what he did. But what he did was he asked a question to a bunch of instructors and coaches, kind of the who's who in Southern California, as well as others around the nation, about asking them to share if they could spend an hour with one of their mentors or people that they've looked up to, the 5 questions they would ask them. For instance, there's Fred Shoemaker, Jamie Mulligan, Allison Kurt. What would be the 5, as if you were taking a lesson from them, what questions would you like to ask them? And it's the responses were great. And if you will email me at randychang@pga.com, I can forward the results to you. And so Tim Mitchell, thanks for sharing that and doing that. There's someone on this call that responded to him, and they were very enlightening and getting back to the roots of why we do what we do on a daily basis as far as teaching and coaching. So again, thanks, Tim, for doing that. And email me at randychang@pga.com, and I can send that to you. Let's see, Anthony, you got any more questions that have come up for Ryan?
Nothing on my end, just great information, and thanks to all.
So again, I want to open it up to since this is a chat room. Well, thanks, Blake. Blake Jergs. One of the things that came up from last week, as far as not that Blake Jergs from Strawberry Farms and the Henry Button Golf Academy, came out as far as the groups go. And I want to share this again for those of you who weren't on last week, was, not having, 8 to 10 of your kids or your parents showing up at the same time. And so he was staggering, kind of like, I think he was saying like 15 minutes if your class started at 10:30. The first 4 may be dropped off at 10:30, and the other ones would be dropped off. The other 4 would be dropped off 15 minutes later, to kind of stagger, this whole thing where you have all 8 to 10 of your kids walking, together out to the driving range or to the golf course. I thought that was pretty good. As far as us goes, before we always invited the parents. We set up chairs and things for the parents. That's not happening anymore as well. The other thing he reminded me of is Junior League and the update on that. I don't know if Junko did chime in. I know she had another call, but they are still planning on that May 15th kind of start date. And I don't know, Anthony, if you had any more update on Junior League.
Yeah. So I think the big, you're right that the scheduled season start date is going to be the 15th per CDC guidelines. I think the big thing right now is kind of the postseason, how that's going to work, right? So You know, if we have a delayed start from May 15th, you know, I think we had initially anticipated our postseason to start end of July. Long story short is they're looking at combining the spring and fall leagues, and then doing a postseason, or possibly not even doing a postseason. So that's kind of essentially where we're at. I mean, obviously it's a moving target. It kind of changes by the hour. So, you know, that's no new rules, Blake. You know, I think we're there. I know for sure that they're kind of focusing on they're focusing on the regular season first and foremost. They want to make sure that they're giving that experience to all of the kids and families. And again, if we're able to host a postseason, section championship, all the way up, then we're definitely going to do it. And we're going to try to figure out by any means to do it. But as of right now, I think for sure we're going to start May 15th and combine the summer and fall seasons.
So here's what we're going to be doing, and Blake, you'll probably be getting a call, is that as we have done in the past, the people that are in your division, you know, we'll get together, and if your golf course is going to be open, we can start, you know, our own competition like we have done throughout the year. So I'd say if you folks that are on this call do have you know, junior league teams, they do know the people that are in the division, I'd call those coaches, and when their golf course get open, just do it on your own, just to get the things going. We're looking at possibly, you know, cutting it down again. Instead of the 8, we may do just 4 kids, just to get things going. And Blake, you know, with you, me, Tina, and you know, Monarch Beach and so on, coaches there, we'll be getting in touch and try to do it together. So that's what I would probably recommend for others on this call that do have junior league teams. You just get together on your guys' own and establish some matches, however that you guys want.
Hey, Randy, just to touch on that, because I was with Junko on a call with Junko yesterday. She talked a lot about doing stuff in-house, especially being up here in LA County. We're looking at, you know, possibly even further than May 15th for driving ranges and things like that to open up, where, you know, Rolling Hills, PV Country Club might open a little sooner, to at least get the kiddos out there and practicing and playing, creating the tournament play within each individual course.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Great. And I know, Jordan, I'm not sure, you know, from what I recall in speaking with Junko, is that even if you're a little bit short of what a normal in-house league would be, that they're definitely making accommodations around that. You know, even if it's a 4, 5, 6 person team, you know, so just you know, if you're kind of short in that number, don't worry. They're willing to work with you, and they want to make sure that you get a season going, however possible.
Correct.
And one of the things is that at the golf courses, since the golf courses are literally booked, the last, you know, however you can get the kids out in the last 2 hours or an hour and a half, because nobody's going to come out to play maybe an hour and a half before sunset. We're even talking about we have, you know, 6 holes and do a 2-2-2 type of thing as far as flags goes. But just being creative, just to get the kids on the course. If you can't do the whole 9 holes, you can even shorten it up. Or our big thing is this is an opportunity again to get the kids to learn how to play fast. So if they want to play in an hour and a half, you got to play fast. So again, just taking these things as opportunities, being creative is what we want to try to do and share what this chat is all about. So.
Yeah, just wanted to give everyone one more kind of update on what's going to be happening throughout the week too, as regards to webinars. We have a brand new Back to Golf webinar that's going to be hosted by the Monarch Beach team, Eric Lohman and his team there. So obviously some more insight as to kind of what they're dealing with. We also have a catalyst with Martin Chuck. It's kind of, Josh, it's kind of fortuitous that you talk about this. His topic is going to be how to stay engaged with customers and students utilizing online tools. For those of you who don't know who Martin Chuck is, I mean, he a great instructor, and then also has come out with a lot of really great training aids in the past year. So a great follow on social media. So really looking forward to seeing that. And then also obviously our Friday and Monday Cal Chat. So lots of opportunities for you guys to get some information, get a little bit of education. I'm going to post my phone number and email address here if anyone wants to reach out. I've had conversations, post calls with a lot of professionals, I think, for the past 2 weeks here, just kind of things off topic or maybe might not be appropriate for the group. So wanted to just extend that invitation to anyone in this chat. If there's anything that you want to follow up on or, might need a little bit of dedicated time, feel free to reach out to me. Happy to chat and lend an ear or, kind of brainstorm some ideas. And I think that's it for me, Randy, unless you got anything else.
Again, if anybody wants my formula for my hand sanitizer, again, randychang@pga.com.
I'm sure that beats the chicken chang, right? Is that as good as chicken chang or what?
Oh, hell no. Nothing's good as chicken chang. You know that. All right. Well, if there's nothing, like I said, any questions or anything like that, please feel free to email me, randychang@pga.com. Pretty simple. And everybody stay safe. Let's get some more. I'll have some more to share as far as how we're going to do some of my group lessons with the kids at least. And again, everybody stay safe.